there are lots of young people who have moved within the last 2 to 3 years to the Western world, and with the notion that everything in the West is good. Right? When you have conversations with young university students, they tell you that, I want to travel, I want to go and do my master's there and stay there, get a job and make money, because there are no opportunities for you here in Ghana. There's no money for you. The government is killing us. There's some truth in all those sentiments, but I do believe that the conversation hasn't been holistic enough.
That's like a corporate lawyer. We see the upsides of like for profits, businesses and ventures, the inside and out, and decide to opt for a non-profit. Why?
Like ever since I was young, I wanted to help people. A lot of Africans don't believe that they can create and don't believe that they are brilliant. Before colonization, there were brilliant Africans who did brilliant things, who built brilliant things. And so once we recondition our minds to think that we can do, then we'll begin to see the Africa that we want to see. I believe in processes. If you learn how to get a customer base, if you learn how to struggle and fail and struggle and fail and struggle and fail and build a value system, whether or not you get a grant, you'll be successful.
So French in Accra and the world beyond is out again at the Persa podcast. And today on your behalf, I have a privilege of talking to the leader of the Reformation Community. It's a community that is committed to building a community of self-motivated problem solvers. It's essentially a non-profit, and I have the privilege is all mine, and then the honor is mine to be talking to Madam Ewurama Jenkins. Ewurama, you're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming, for leaving your very busy schedule at the Reformation to be with us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, thank you. So just give us an overview of what Reformation is about.
So, as you've already said, its aim is to develop a self-motivated generation of problem solvers. And essentially what we're trying to do is get as many young people to want to solve societal problems in Ghana and across Africa. And so we work in 4 main thematic areas. We have health, which we do with UNAIDS. We have legal literacy, because I have a background in law. We have climate action, where we're working on the gamification of carbon trading. And then we have education. So education is what we've really, really been doing for the last couple of years. We have 2 projects under education. We have the Booksville Mobile Library project, and then the Reformation Community University chapters. Okay,
that's a lot. What prompted you to start a non-profit, and then a non-profit that follows these 4 basic thematic areas? How did Reformation start?
It's been a journey. So it didn't just start immediately. Like ever since I was young, I wanted to help people. Like I would be sitting in the car, if a crippled person comes and asks for money, I'll turn to my mom and I'll ask her, how come there are people who just keep begging for money? Like, were they just born to, suffer? Those were the kinds of thoughts that were running through my teenage mind. So when I went to high school, Ibri girls, I had a couple of friends that I used to talk about these things. We just discussed, like we didn't know what we were talking about, but we all sort of had certain experiences with people who just were struggling in life, like whether from JHS or just random people in churches. So we decided to start an NGO after WASI. So that's how we registered Reformation. Like I went to my mom and I was like, Mommy, like I want to register a non-profit. I had no idea what it really meant to register a non-profit, but I said, for my birthday present, please do this for me. And she did.
Wow.
So my birthday is 12th September. And
putting it out there, please. You want cake? It's very intentional.
Wow. 12th September.
Okay, very well noted.
If you check our registration documents, it's 6th September
Okay. So a
2016.
week to your birthday.
So we registered it, and then I got into University of Ghana School of Law. So I didn't do anything with it until about 2019.
Okay.
And that's because in law school I had an employer who was doing his PhD in Germany, and I had told him about the NGO. So he gives me a website in 2019. I
The gift to the website. Wow. A lot of the gifts being doled out on this journey. Wow.
Yeah. So that's how I started. At that time, the people I started with in JHS, in high school, had moved on to other universities. So I brought together friends from law school in 2019 to start it up again. And so the first project was the Booksville Mobile Library project, which went ahead to win at the Harvard National Model United Nations Conference.
So like what do you guys do at Booksville? So let me get it right. Reformation is an NGO that is focused on like 4 main areas, you said. So there's education, there's health, legal literacy, and then climate. And then your first project came under the education one, which is Booksville.
Yes.
And you said it's a mobile library. So is it that people can access a library anywhere they are, or like a library that is moving, like a hard copy book that is moving around,
Yes.
How does that look like?
Yeah, very, very biased towards hard copy books. I feel like ebooks they work well, but
okay, Granny.
but like it's so distracting. Messages keep popping up. But yeah, so the Booksville Mobile Library project is actually based on impact. We don't just want to provide children with books to read. We want to, again, our aim is self-motivated problem solvers. So we want the children to be developing critical thinking skills, problem solving skills, literacy, all incorporated into the project. So we decided to go with schools. What we do is that we do the project in 6-month periods. Would go to GES, get permission from GES, go to a school, and then we'll pick a number of students spanning from class 3 to JHS 1. And then every Saturday we have 2-hour sessions with them where we teach them, we use chess, we do robotics, we sometimes even incorporate like movies based on storybooks that speak to, the African identity, critical thinking, just so that we are really, really teaching the children how to think outside of their system. And we usually do it with underprivileged schools.
Oh, okay. So is it like you have a community of schools that will always be on sort of retainer to your NGO, or is you pick people from this school and then over this period you deal with them and then you move to another school?
Yes. So usually one school, and then we have like a rotation schedule for volunteers.
So all of this is under Booksville?
Yes.
So reading sessions, robotics, and what else again?
Chess. Sometimes we use movies as well.
Okay. So under the education wing, there is the university chapter. So is it like the tertiary or the higher tertiary version of what you're doing with Booksville? Is that how that looks like? Or?
Yes, exactly. So the university chapters also operate as reading clubs. So there are clubs registered in the universities, and what we are trying to do is teach the African identity. Because one of the things that like the team noticed as we were going through Booksville and interacting with even other volunteers was that a lot of Africans don't believe that they can create. And don't believe that they are brilliant, right? And so one of the things that is really on my heart is to teach young people born in Africa, Africans, that before colonization, there was evolution. Even if it didn't look like the evolution that we are being taught right now, there was evolution, and there were brilliant Africans who did brilliant things, who built brilliant things. And so once we recondition our minds to think that we can do, then we'll begin to see the Africa that we want to see.
Okay. So that's the mandate for the I guess the whole education theme now,
Yes.
whether it's Booksville or the university chapter. So
Mhm.
you're basically doing what you're doing with Booksville with the people in the universities. That's interesting. But
I
then,
mean, there's more to it. So the baseline is the reading, the renewal of the mind, but we have like pitching competitions
oh,
that we do every
for
quarter
businesses.
for businesses, just so that there's a pipeline of students that we connect these businesses to. And so the pitching competitions involve design thinking. So apart from renewing your mind, we also want to teach you an iterative process of problem solving. So problem solving, not just as an entrepreneur, but even if you're doing a 9 to 5, right? Being able to think on the spot, being able to solve problems.
So like, yes, we have mentorship sessions as sorts.
So there's mentorship, there's like career development, and then there's the leadership conference at the end of the year. So we bring everybody together.
Whether Booksville or university chapter.
So Booksville is usually children, so we don't really focus on children for the leadership conference.
Just the university people.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, so what other things have you done? And if we come back to the things you're doing with healthcare and then the legal literacy and climate, right?
Yeah.
But you said you went to Ebri Girls. What did you study at Ebri Girls?
I study creative arts,
Okay.
economics, elective math, French, and then I've mentioned econs, e-math, French, geography.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then you went to the University of Ghana, studied law. But before Ebri Girls, where?
Richard School.
You were raised in Accra. Siblings?
One sister. Yeah.
One sister. Okay. Yeah. Your parents, does your mom run an NGO herself or something?
No, she's banker her whole life. She's so supportive.
And your dad?
My dad is a clearing agent, so freight forwarder. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. And so where did you think you got the idea that, because I want to help people, I could probably set up an organization? Like, where do you think those thoughts that's budding in your head? What points in your life?
Honestly, I don't know. I would lie to you if I say that I even observed somebody doing something like this to start thinking along those lines. But I've just felt like I've always wanted to help people. And then when I Googled it, they said, if you want to help people, then, philanthropy, humanitarianism, the most likely thing that you should be going into is a non-profit organization. So I think it was really Google. Yeah.
I see. How I got to know you, it was new in the capacity as a lawyer, right? We interfaced on like a couple of business fronts. So it's interesting that you're sort of like a corporate lawyer. We see the upsides of like for profits businesses and ventures, the inside and out, and you decide to opt for a non-profit when you wanted to start a project. I mean, if you say you want to help people with education, you can start a school and then give them the training. You get your revenue, you get money, still get paid for the work you're doing.
Yeah.
But you decided to opt for a non-profit. Why?
That's a very interesting question. And I would say that is because I started with a non-profit. Right. I currently am looking at the option to become a social enterprise, just because I think that non-profits spend a lot of time, and this might be controversial, but I just think that non-profits spend a lot of time looking for grants instead of doing the actual work. Right. And I'm really, really focused on trying to move impact forward. So I want a sort of revenue generation model that would keep every project that we are doing consistent and sustainable. So again, I'm in this space because I started with it, and I've been working on it for literally my whole adult life. And so I have to continue down that route. But
a very young adult life, which you keep going on. You keep going on 12 September. Yeah. So, I mean, non-profits generally in the market have bad press when it comes to raising capital. There's the low trust equity for non-profits in Africa, especially. There's this conversation going that, and people run non-profits as facades to just loot money and take money and stuff like that. How have you navigated that bad press as someone who runs a non-profit? Because you're also raising capital to sustain what you're doing. How have you navigated that?
I think I lead conversations with value, the value that I have, amassed over the years. So when I decided to do this full time, there was something that I kept telling myself, that I will be someone who creates value, so that if I'm speaking of the value I've created, then that is the evidence that I have to what I'm doing, right? So instead of going after the money initially, I really, really tried to put all my resources into the Booksville Mobile Library project, the university chapters, and also try to tell the story of what we are doing online. Not to put the people we are helping on blast, because I also don't really like, highlighting people's struggles, but just to be able to talk about what we've done, so that there's a trail of the work that we've put into it. And I think that when you put the work in, when you put value on the work you do, the rest will come.
Okay.
Yeah, honestly.
I see. So how have you been raising capital? Like, how are you getting the funds to sustain what you're doing as a non-profit? Because it's even difficult for people who are running for profit enterprises to raise capital, even with the promise of returning funds to investors with a markup and a spread and an upside. With you, when they give you money, it's gone. Like, they don't actually expect anything. How are you navigating that?
So, I mean, for the longest time, from like 2021, we organized fundraisers, or one fundraiser at the beginning of the year, which we called New Year's with Booksville. And so we would invite close friends and family to come. We used to do auction sales, would auction dates, like very innovative ways to try and raise funds. And we would raise funds during that January period, and that's what we used the entire year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I might actually owe you an apology. I'm at some point, I wanted to volunteer to help. I never made up for you one meeting. Oh, I'm so sorry.
I mean, a serial entrepreneur in your own right.
Please, I beg you. So I think what you're doing with Reformation is very, very interesting. So aside education, you mentioned that you dabble in healthcare, in that area. What do you do now in that regard, in that space?
So with healthcare, it's very interesting, because our main partner is UNAIDS, and we did a fundraiser for them last year in December for World AIDS Day, where we used cinema to raise funds for them. It was sponsored by the French Embassy. And then with those funds, we actually did a disbursement this year. So we went all the way to Brekum. We gave out, wheelchairs, paid for school and some children's schooling, paid for physiotherapy for others. So that's how we've entered into, the health space, and we're continuing with implementing for them. We've done like a social media campaign recently for zero discrimination, and would continue doing stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And climate? Climate
really is because I am very weirdly invested in carbon trading. It's so controversial. Like, so many people have so many takes on putting a price tag on removing or avoiding CO2 from the atmosphere. And like, there's all these think pieces on why morally is questionable. I just think it's a very innovative way to solve a problem that we are all facing, right? Again, because everybody cares about money. That's the truth, right? And so if you put a price tag to something, even if people aren't, again, very controversial take, but even if people aren't like morally weighing,
it's a self-awareness for me.
No, because sometimes the idea is that, like, these people might not even necessarily really care about the climate, but they're just doing it because they think that they can get money from it. At the end of the day, are we like helping to save the climate? If we are, then I mean,
So how are you? What's the role Reformation is playing in that regard? Are you involved in carbon trading or what's that?
no, not necessarily, but we are currently working, we've partnered with another organization to gamify the entire process. Right, so the entire ecosystem of, like, for example, say you plant trees. Trees remove CO2 actively from the atmosphere, right? So the process of planting trees to remove CO2, to verification, to getting, say, maybe a financier to finance your project for a number of years, to being able to sell, or maybe the voluntary carbon market will be in a form of a game that we would give to young people, just to teach them, like, that process of actually implementing, like, a climate centered project.
Okay.
Right, so it's also sort of education,
Oh, okay.
if you really
Think about it.
think about it. Yeah.
Oh, who are you going to be playing a carbon trading game?
So
Yeah.
even the end product is to go through the entire, so even on the,
So you will not actually be moving carbon from the atmosphere,
no,
but you'll be
it's
playing
just,
a game around that theme.
yes. So
Oh.
you can actually trade, like, in the app. You can have,
Actual
like,
trading.
actual
Get
trading
real
with,
money.
not real money, but game money.
Oh, okay.
Right, so sort of like Monopoly. So yeah, so
That's
if
interesting.
you remove CO2 in the game, then you are able to sell it on the voluntary carbon market. You get money. You are able to offset, maybe there's a cap and trade system, or type of game from each level that goes up.
So how are you going to roll out that? Like, who are the target audience for that such a game? How are you going to roll that out?
Honestly, they are my university students as well.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so with the university chapters, always connecting back to what we're trying to do with young people in Africa.
Okay. So now to the block that is centered on your profession by training, legal education
Literacy.
or legal literacy.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, forgive me for.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so how does that look like?
And for that, it's just a group of lawyers who have come together, well, my mates essentially, who have come together and who offer, basic legal learning for, citizens, at a pro bono rate. Right.
Okay.
So if you're an entrepreneur, you need some advice, you don't have the money, those type of things, at a pro bono or low bono rates, depending.
Okay.
If you want to incorporate your business, because we've also realized that there are lots of startups that aren't legally compliant. And the idea is that the reason why a lot of startup founders won't try and look for legal advice is because it's too expensive. So this is something that we want to
okay.
do. Yeah.
But I know you don't practice it again. You ran away. How are you doing this to us? Okay. So you mentioned that your plan is to turn what you're running now to like a social enterprise. What does that mean? And how are you going to execute that? What does it mean for what you're running now to become a social enterprise? What will change?
I mean, in the grand scheme of things, the impact will remain the same, but maybe for, like, an incubator hub, which is the next step of what we're doing, because the uni chapters are across Africa now. It's not just in Ghana. We are in about 10 to 11 universities in Ghana, and then about 10 to 15 universities. I can't get the accurate number because some people are on probation in East Africa. And the idea is to be doing, like, lecture series on leadership, mentorship, problem solving, and then eventually go into creating these incubator hubs that would cultivate the problem solvers we want to see, right? And so for eventually joining the Reformation community will come with, like, a membership fee, for example, or, like, if you want to be part of an accelerator program that we eventually start running, then maybe we might price it. We're also looking to partner with organizations. So I talked about the pitching competitions. If we get organizations to fund these pitching competitions, then we start getting, like, a stream of income that will help us sustain the organization.
So the goal is to try and weighing down your dependency on external charity giving, and then be self-sustaining.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay, so you said you guys organize. So far, you mentioned that you guys do two main events: the fundraiser in January and the leadership conference at the end of the year. But not long ago, you did this program at the LSE, the London School of Economics. What event was that?
It was called Diaspora Diaries.
Okay.
It was 5 companies that we brought together to organize it. Again, there's a lot of brain drain. There are lots of young people, because we work with young people. We see that there are lots of young people who have moved within the last 2 to 3 years to the Western world, and with the notion that everything in the West is good. Right? When you have conversations with young university students, they tell you that, I want to travel, I want to go and do my master's there and stay there, get a job and make money, because there are no opportunities for you here in Ghana. There's no money for you. The government is killing us. I mean, there's some truth in all those sentiments, but I do believe that the conversation hasn't been holistic enough. Right. And so that's what we were trying to do last year. Last year, we were trying to bring together people who live in the diaspora, who experience the life in the diaspora, to have conversations about the realities of living in the diaspora, whether Japan is really what it is supposed to be. And I think that we did, eventually, we were able to achieve what we wanted to do. We started with the debate, LSE versus University of Birmingham, which, elicited some very, very interesting takes and conversations from people doing their masters and PhDs there, and then an informal type of conversation, and then, refreshments at the end. So
Okay, so is it going to be like a recurring event?
I mean, if we get the funding for that.
Okay, so now your core events are the leadership events, and then the fundraiser in the beginning of the year, and then just your regular operations of going to the schools to engage with the students.
Yeah.
I see. Are there any peculiar challenges you faced? First off, because reason being that you being a woman, leading a charge, you run an NGO, and there's some peculiar. Your laughter is very telling. Peculiar challenges you face because you're a woman trying to lead this charge.
I mean, honestly, yes. There are lots of challenges, but I don't really dwell on a lot of things. Like, to me, there are lots of places that I would go, and then unless they see me talking with someone they respect, or a man they respect, or a woman they respect, then they won't acknowledge me. Yeah. And those type of things, I couldn't be bothered, right? Because most often than not, they always come back. Like, once they realize that, oh, maybe you know someone some way, then they'll come back and try and be nice. I don't have time for that, right? To me, then it means you are not serious as well, because you are not able to value people properly. Another challenge is taking difficult decisions, right? Because you're female, sometimes the notion is that you should be able to empathize more, right? So, like, I'm very higher fire. I think there's a lot of, like, we are very lackadaisical in a lot of the things that we do as Ghanaians generally. A lot of the young people are entitled, and they don't prioritize well. They don't communicate well. And because of that, I will let you go. Because if you're working with me, there's a kind of level of competence you should be exhibiting. You should be excellent in what you do. Anything you do, anything you put your hand to, be excellent. Don't do it half-heartedly. If you don't have the capacity to do it, communicate that, oh, at this point in time, I don't have the capacity to do this the way I know you expect me to. And it should be fine. We would empathize with that. We would tolerate something like that. But if there's a consistent giving 2% or giving 5% or doing just enough, let me go into the doing just enough, because we have a way that we would. So, for example, if there's a rule that if you miss 3 meetings as a volunteer, you're out. A volunteer would come the first time, miss the second time, and come the third time, or will come the first 2 times, miss the third one, or miss the first 2 times and then come the third one, right? So doing just enough to ensure that you don't break the rules, but not like putting your all in. If I see that as well, you go.
Okay. All right. I guess like people you are gonna take the hard decisions on will think of you as like a bad person. Like she's a woman, she's have done this better. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's this conversation going on about the fact that DFIs and nonprofits are part of the reason for like our woes as a continent, economically speaking, and that this whole spoon feeding and grants and work of nonprofits won't really bode well for us in the long term as a continent. What do you say about that?
I agree.
But you're running a non-profit.
It doesn't mean two things can be right.
Okay.
I agree. Right. And I mean, I made mention earlier that the fact that I'm working here is because I started like that. Right. Again, it feeds into the entitlement mentality. It also feeds into the I don't know how to say this, like not working hard, right? For example, if a young entrepreneur who's just starting out is trying to build a company with, say, a B2C module, say, so you're supposed to be getting customers to buy your product to create, a revenue stream, right? Instead of doing that, they would be looking for grants, right? And the entire idea is that, when I get the grants, I'll do the work. But I believe in processes. If you learn how to get a customer base, if you learn how to struggle and fail and struggle and fail and struggle and fail and build a value system, whether or not you get a grant, you'll be successful.
Yeah. So is that part of the reason why you want to make this a social enterprise? Interesting.
Yeah.
I see. So how's the organizational structure like with your NGO? Do you have various leaders who are heading the various blocks, and do you have all your employees essentially volunteers, or you have like full time?
So right now we don't have full time, staff because again we are still in the building phase, but we have contract employees.
Okay.
So we pay based on projects.
Okay.
Like, so if we're working on a particular project, then we'll pay you for the service you render for that project. And then we have people that we call implementers who are sort of like staff, right? And they head the different projects that we're working on.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So how do you get, if anybody wants to partner with you financially or commits or be a partner for the Reformation Community, what do we do?
I mean, you can just reach out to us, info@reformationcommunity.org. We also have a partnership with MyEco. So MyEco is a crowdfunding platform. You can find our projects on the MyEco platform. You can also just reach out to us on socials, Reformation Community.
Okay.
There's Booksville as well. And you can look for me personally.
Please go to her on 12th September. Right, I see. So what do you do when you're not running Reformation or being a lawyer or selling real estate?
The real estate that you slipped.
I'd say
what do I do?
I know you like biking.
I do. I love bikes. I hope my mom doesn't listen to this, but I really love bikes. I think there's a sort of freedom that comes with riding a motorcycle, and unless you experience it, you don't really understand what I'm talking about. I really think that sometime in the foreseeable future, I'm going to get myself a motorbike.
That's nice. And what else? You sing, you dance.
Do I dance?
Oh,
no.
I'm just clearing what I've heard.
Dancing, no. I feel like I have 2 left feet. We can't dance in my family. But singing, occasionally. I occasionally sing with a minister of God, Manuel Bliss. So check him out. It's really good. Yeah. And then sometimes I venture into writing music.
Play the keyboard.
And playing the keyboard.
Okay, so in the field where you are, like running an
Mhm.
NGO and impact projects, when you hear the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation or the
Mhm.
Gates Foundation now, what comes to your mind? An idea you want to be like, what's your plan?
With them specifically.
Yeah. I'm more or less asking what the future looks like. Does the future look like them? You
Ah,
know.
I mean, why not? Again, if they see value in the work that we are doing and want to partner, if there's an opportunity where we can reach out to like any of these grants fund. As a matter of fact, even though I've said all these things about social enterprises, maybe I should chip in here. This year I have started looking for grants funding just because I need to stabilize my operations. I also believe that two things can be true at the same time. You can look for grant funding and also try to become stable, internally by yourselves, well, self-sufficient. So yes, future wise, it is still going to be along the lines of creating value, creating impact, being self-sufficient, also looking for opportunities where they present themselves.
Mental health.
Hmm.
How are you thriving?
Honestly, I think I mentioned earlier that I don't dwell on things because I sort of tell myself that I don't have time
Okay.
to dwell on it, right? Like applying for grants, you will be rejected, sir. When I left the law firm that I was with and I came home, I applied to like 100 companies. Nobody took me. Every day rejection, rejection, rejection. It really can take a toll on your mental health, and it can sometimes sort of make you believe that you're not good enough. But I know inherently that that's not true, and I don't dwell on being rejected. In my mind, I'm just not the right fit.
Okay.
You find I'm sure they'll find someone better, and I'm sure I'll find someone who thinks I'm the right fit.
Okay.
But that's not all. I have declarations that I say every day. I have about 200 daily declarations,
Okay.
like about the type of person I am, about who I am, as like how I think, how I perceive things, what I'm able to achieve. So I keep telling myself that so that my mind keeps remembering who I am. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Spirituality.
Mm.
I know you are. I've gathered. Sorry, that you
Ish.
like church.
The way you said this thing, dear.
And that you like church. What role does that play in all that you do?
Again, daily declarations. I stand on my authority as a child of God.
I feel the
Yeah,
spirit.
period. Period. No, my religion is my foundation.
Okay.
Even the decisions that I take, like the reason why I wouldn't practice full time and then I would go venture into what I'm doing now is because I believe that's my purpose. If I didn't believe that it was God's vision for my life, I wouldn't make such a decision. I wouldn't continue to make the decisions that I make.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, Jesus and I were like this.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, Ewurama.
Yes.
Last thing.
Mm.
So I ask almost everybody this thing. Death.
Mm.
I know you're like, you're very young. You're not
Mhm.
married yet, are you?
No.
Okay. And um it may sound like it's too early to be thinking about these things, but when you get death,
Mm.
what comes to mind? How do you process that?
It's so interesting that you ask this question, but usually it is, have I been able to achieve what I've set out to achieve, right? Like, what would people say that Ewurama Jenkins did during her lifetime? Even if I were to die tomorrow, have I done anything that I set out to do? And why I said it's interesting is because I'm currently, a facilitator for Cross It Out. It's a campaign being run by MX24, and we speak to young females about some of these things. And what I talk about is vision and finding your purpose, right? And what I ask them to do in terms of finding their purpose is think towards when they're 90. So you've lived a good life. When someone is reading your obituary at your funeral, what would they say you've been able to achieve? Who would they say you are, you have been, and you've been able to do? Right. So for me, whether you die early or late, at the end of the day, have you been able to do what you want to do? I don't necessarily think I'm afraid of death because I believe in Jesus. And to me, if I die, I'm going to be with my Father. So at the end of the day, yeah.
Interesting. Thank you very much, Ewurama, for a very interesting conversation. We hope that the model you have in mind of a social enterprise that is truly self-sustaining and is bent on raising self-motivated problem solvers goes well. We really need it for our continent. We really need it. We need problem solvers because, as you know, we are least in a throng of problems. Yeah, so thanks for what you do, and please keep going. Hopefully you get all the right partners for this journey, and then all the best.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming. So, friends in the crowd, the world beyond, that was Ewurama Jenkins with the Reformation Community. So, Charlie, keep building. Do it.